feeling good, can I tell?
Well, the Doc speak.
See you find Parker Street. What's up, family? My name is
Man,
You got on?
what are you doing?
I'm starting.
All right, you gotta start over.
All right.
Go ahead.
The right thing is up.
Yeah.
Keisha's always right. I tell you, I love her. And she tells the truth. What's up, family? My name is Brooke Murray. We'd like to welcome everyone to the Brooklyn William Mackey Jr. History Club. We meet here every other Wednesday in honor of William Mackey Jr., Louis Ray Rivera, Alton Maddox, Amos Wilson, El-Haj Malik Al-Shabazz, Brother Gil Noble, Brother Harold, Brother Assad, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Ivan Van Sertima, Miss Leola Maddox, and all the historians who gave up fame and fortune because they wanted to tell the truth and bring the correct history. Miss Leola Maddox drove an old car from Teaneck, New Jersey, all the way to the UAM because she believed in bringing people together for the lectures at the United African Movement. And she ate her dinner right in there because she believed in bringing speakers and bringing people together. So we want to never forget. We're going to bring the camera over to the Amos collection, I call this. These books is to help Brother Sababu of African World Info Systems in his work to continue. With Amos Wilson, we have Blueprint for Black Power, The Psychology of Self-Hatred and Self-Defeat toward a Reclamation of the African Mind. Sababu's latest in honor of Amos. Classic, Black on Black Violence, the psychodynamic of self-hatred, self-annihilation in service of white domination. It says, the psychodynamic of black self-annihilation in service of white domination. White domination. And every big city mayor, talking head politician, regular folk walking up and down the street, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is black on black violence. Amos Classic is unbelievable. The developmental psychology of the black child, awakening the natural genius of black children, African-centered consciousness versus the New World Order. And you hear everybody speak about the New World Order. Great Reset. The New World Order. But have you ever heard anybody mention African-centered consciousness versus the New World Order? Garveyism in the age of globalism. And you know what Garvey tried to do. And some other Negroes got together and ran him out of town. Other black folk. Chapters in all parts of the world, Garvey had chapters and people was waking up. The falsification of African consciousness, and you have a lot of Forsters around. You have a lot of falsities around. Issues of manhood in black and white, in honor of Louis Ray Rivera. Jazz in jail. Louis Ray Rivera. I have to say this. When Mackie left us too soon, Louis Ray used to come down here. He grew up in Monster Prairie. And he used to come down here in support of the Mackey's group. And he used to speak for hours. And he lived right down the block on Hancock Street. And he would leave here 10 o'clock. And we would walk him home. And by the time he finished talking, it's 12 o'clock at night. He even had the Mackey's group on WBAI. So we have this in honor of Louis Ray Rivera. When we miss him, he left us too soon. And then the last publication is S.K. Damiana, Distorted Truth, the Bastardization of African Cosmology. We have these books in honor of these people. So these are some other publications that I have. And in honor of Dr. Randy Short, Slavery Mastery and the Impact of Religious Slavery. Dr. Scott Whitaker's classic, Medicine, the Causes and Solutions of Diseases to the Malnutrition of the Medical Sins that are killing the world. He's out of Georgia. Scott Whitaker does an excellent job. The late Brother Harold, The Transfer Agreement, untold story of the secret pact between the Third Reich and Jewish Palestine. And it's funny with all this stuff going on. This is a good book to get.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
With all the chicanery happening, the transfer agreement. The last big opposition they was talking about was the lost Jews, last of the Ethiopian Philashes. You don't hear none of that no more. That's past tense. The lost Jews. What? In my personal opinion, the only one that cared enough about the people of Georgia, Miss Cynthia McKenney. Coronavirus lockdown and the global political economic crisis. And on orders from some other folks, they got together. Black folks got together on orders from white folks and did it in. So we got a lot of people working on assignment. Yeah. Dr. Ben, they didn't have too many computers at this time. Black man of the Nile and his family. And you got a lot of people claiming that Dr. Ben gave them orders to continue their work. Lies! Only a few are continuing the work of Dr. Ben.
Yes, sir.
Without Sanctuary, Lynching Photography in America. And you want to talk about, Raji, bring this camera and try to log it in a little quick and look at the photos. And when we talk about reparations, it's always, let's talk about it. The bill is on sitting up there collecting dust. Let's have maybe they should get school. If you look at these pictures in these books, and you bring this up to these folks, and they still want to have a debate. They still want to talk about it. This is the book Without Sanctuary. They still want to talk about, well, that wasn't too bad. Get over it. Funny thing about this picture right here, like a white dude. rope around his neck. So, this book right here is on the utmost of the lynchings of our people. The dogs.
What's the name of the book again?
Without Sanctuary. So, Ayokamati, Jews are the problem. It's a small read, but the research is impeccable in honor of the irritated genie. Edward Dow was an analyst with BlackRock, and he wrote this book, Causes Unknown, the epidemic of sudden death in 2021, 2022, 2023, and coming into 2024, and it's going to be 2025. Edward Dow lays it down, and it's a critical analysis of all the deaths of the young kids from the myocarditis from the 18. The truth about COVID-19, Dr. McCullough, and the real Anthony Fauci. These two books, especially this one. And when you read this one and that damn Fauci, and don't get mad at me, talk to Robert Kennedy. Don't get mad at me, Robert Kennedy, Joseph McCullough. This is the last book, Vaxxed and Unvaxxed. Let the science speak.
Yes, sir.
Robert Kennedy, and it's a Times bestseller, and Brian Hooker, PhD. The studies of the CDC. This book is based on over 100 studies in the peer-reviewed literature that considered vaccinated versus unvaccinated populations. Each study is analyzed and health difference among infants, children, and adults who have been vaccinated and those who are not presented in this context. And those who are not are presented in this context. Readers will find information, and I'm going to repeat, readers will find information on the infant/child vaccination schedule, thermorosal and vaccines, live virus vaccines, the human papillomavirus virus HPV vaccine, and vaccinations and Gulf War illness, influenza and flu vaccines, hepatitis B vaccinations, the COVID-19 vaccine, and vaccine during pregnancy. Given the massive push to vaccinate the entire global population, this book is timely and necessary for individuals to make informed choices for themselves and their family. And Sister Carol Alexander, The Unspoken Truth About Racial Divide. So these publications, and unless you're very fortunate to come listen to the great Dr. Lewis, who's been saying stuff for years,
That's right.
before the books even came out. I'm going to give you some community events. And number one, I want to give Dr. Lewis in the Acubula Land Community Cultural Center in Detroit, Michigan, on Van Dyke and Harper, and the good people of Detroit, Brother Boatwell, and what's the other guy's name?
Pianki.
Huh?
Pianki.
Brother Palanke, Boatwright, and the great people of Detroit, Les K and them, and they came through, and Dr. Lewis tore the house down.
Yeah.
Brother Mikhail and his service, let me tell you, they have a space in Detroit a block long. And then we went to the restaurant, the Knowledge Cafe, who I have put on my Facebook, and she brought out a big tray of fish and they have books and everything. So we want to give the Akibia Land Cultural Center for laying out the carpet, and Dr. Lewis and his wife Mary and myself was there, and we had an excellent time. So we want to give them credit. The Thorough Black Talk radio program, one of the hottest shows on the East Coast, is coming on tomorrow at 8 o'clock. On Facebook Live and YouTube, it comes on every Thursday at 8 o'clock. That's Sister Keisha, Tad, Brother Ashe, Brother Black, and Sister Marcia. The Big Four, I call it. Hitting the East Coast. The Big Five. And our Philadelphia connection with Sister Empress Chi, Blog Talk Radio, every Saturday at 10:30. The telephone number is 1319-527-6189. Sister Empress Chi and our Philadelphia connection is doing a real good job. Brother Ayo Kamati, Sankofa Radio, the Irritated Genie. Sankofa Revolutionary Radio comes on every Monday at 10 o'clock from 10 to 11. That's WSYP 95.1 FM from Birmingham, Alabama, with Brother Anthony Mohammed. And Ayo Kamati has a live program, and he's really laying it down. And he talks about that book, Jews Are the Problem. Our Baltimore connection, State of the City, Darren Muhammad. Wednesday or Thursday, and he comes on Saturday on Instagram under State of the City Baltimore and Facebook Live. So Darren Muhammad is laying it out tough for the people down in Baltimore and through the global U.S. community. Every Tuesday at 7 p.m., Dr. Aline, Your Immunity Program. Just look up Your Immunity Program with Dr. Aleem, and that program is excellent. Dr. Aleem is laying down some hot stuff every Tuesday at 7 o'clock, and he's talking about the 19 and what's going on. African Echo Study Group with Brother Trust Graham and the African Echoes family out of Newark has a study group come on at 8 o'clock. If anybody's on the live Zoom audience, they will put the information in the chat. And that's Fridays at 8 o'clock and Saturdays, the Know Thyself Troops, the Know Thyself Study Group with Brother True, and that's out of Asbury Park. Brother Trust is the mediator of that group. The Semotep family with Brother James McIntosh, Betty Dobson, and Richard Dean Theodore. That program comes on from 2 to 3 on WBAI. And today they had an excellent program on health. It was unbelievable, and I believe they're having a program on the 18th. If you go on the Semotep, they're having an anniversary, I believe it's 36-year anniversary. Go on and see, go on Semotep, and they will let you know what's going on, but it's going to be November 18th, and they're going to have Anthony Browder and a few other speakers. So Dr. James McIntosh and them is coming up with a big program. All are welcome. The Community Cop program comes on Tuesdays at 5 o'clock. You could go into YouTube and look at all the past lectures that they're doing and do your own research on Community Cop. All the Brooklyn William Mackey Jr. lectures is on YouTube under B.K. William Mackey Jr. And specifically the 4-part series that Dr. Lewis did on the invasion in Niger, the African coup in Niger. And we're looking forward to some more parts on that. So the people on the Zoom, give yourself a great big hand. Also, for the audience that came out in support of the Brooklyn William Mackey Jr. History Club, give yourself a great big hand. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the delay. Without further ado, we're going to have our keynote speaker. Brother Mike Graves is going to talk about the topic, Who Are We? Give him a great big hand.
we are.
Because we are.
I am.
I am.
Because we are.
Because we are.
And I just always, when I say that, I hope that we really understand what that means. Some of us, we really don't quite get it. You know, we just hear something, somebody say it, and we say it, but I really mean that so much that when I say I am because we are, what I'm actually saying is that we are accountable to each other. We are accountable to each other because it is in our best interest that for me to be good, you gotta be good, and for you to be good, I can be good. Because without each other, none of us are free. And if we see any of the recent developments, we all know that we're in a whole lot of trouble if we don't unify quickly, at least enough to change things. You know, there's change going on all over, and we should be a part of that process. It's an honor to be here tonight, and this is special because we just went through a 4-part series that was nothing short of incredible. Give Dr. Lewis a hand. You know, he set the mark very high with that 4-part series. Set the mark really high. And so, those of us that come behind him, we got a mark that we have to get to. So, we're very appreciative of what he was able to do. And I hope that we internalize some of those salient remarks that he made. Because if we walked away from those 4 parts and gained absolutely nothing, we're at a real loss. So those lectures that he put out there, it's nothing wrong with reviewing them. Review them again and again till you know the material, and then do your own research, which he encourages you to do. Do your own research, and that way, the next time he lectures, you can ask him. Or when you get here early, or when you get a chance, ask him about, well, what was up with this? What was up with that? I saw it this way, but you was talking about it in a whole nother way. And that meeting of the minds is a good exchange for everybody. So whatever's being said here, always, take a few minutes and review it. And let's see if it passed your smell test. Let's see if your instincts are tingling when you hear certain things. Now tonight, I'm going to ask some questions, and y'all might have to help me get through this lecture, or y'all might not let me get through the lecture and come after me. Because I'm going to say some things that that we might not find agreeable, and it's okay to disagree. It's okay to disagree. It's fine. As a matter of fact, if you disagree, that is perfectly okay. Because if you disagree, you're thinking. I think you're thinking better. If you agree with everything I say, you're thinking real good. But, because if it's that far removed from what's being said, then somebody's not on point. And we want everybody on code. So let's see where we at. Now, if I were to ask you, if I got in front of myself and to ask you, who are we might get a lot of different answers. But as we go forward with this, I think we'll get a better idea as to who are we. Who am I? Am I who I think I am? And am I all that I'm supposed to be? That's the question. Who am I? Am I who I think I am? Am I all that I'm supposed to be? That's something for introspection that we have to do. You got to really think about that. And if you can think about that honestly, you're on your way. You know, in 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement, we say what the scriptures say, iron sharpen iron. You know, because that makes all of us better. So, you know, we would have knockdown, drag out meetings where no one was unscathed. We would have those kind of leadership meetings, not general membership meetings. The general leadership meetings were much better, much calmer, much more organized. But in private leadership, we don't test each other. You know, your mettle was tested, you know, and that's okay because it made all of us better. So if we were alone someplace, we already know how to stand it. We could take it from each other. Certainly when we went anywhere else, we were good. You know, and I think that's instructional for all of us. You know, make each other better. If you can challenge, challenge. You know, even growing up as a kid, the 5%ers, you know, they would meet in Gershwin Park, or they would meet in 213 right there in East New York and go at it. They would form their cipher and go at each other hard. You know, and if they could burn you, they'd burn you, as they used to call it. I'll burn you, I'll burn your brain. Because if you say you manifest who you are, then you got to prove it. If you're wearing any of their insignias and their stuff, you're going to have to prove it or they're going to take it from you. So, in that sense, Cabral said, max no difficulties, tell no lies, and claim no easy victories. Mask no difficulties, tell no lies, claim no easy victories. So the emphasis is to always be honest with yourself. Now I'm trying to get to who am I and who are we. I'm going to try to get there. If these words sound familiar, you should know them. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmony of liberty. Stormy the road we trod. You might not be as familiar with the other stanzas. You know the first one, and most of us kind of err on the other one. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears. True to our God, true to our native land. Very important. True to our God, true to our native land. Now that's totally different in terms of a national anthem as opposed to bombs bursting in air and all that kind of stuff. Got a whole nother perspective, which shows you come out of a totally different culture than the culture of Europeans. Totally different. We ain't sing about bombs bursting in air and all this fighting and blasting and spilling of blood. We're talking about brotherhood and sisterhood and getting better because that's the experience we came out of. Now, if we were to make a national anthem now, I'd be scared as hell to quote it with the silliness we see on social media every day. Can you imagine? I don't even want to name their names. Oh my goodness. You know, the stuff we talk about on social media. We have a platform that's out of this world where you can communicate in seconds with anybody all over the world, and we talking about who going with who split with who. And they were doing this with this person and that person. So it's such a waste of time, you know, and I'm saying, you know, we're the daughters and sons of the best of the best. You know, what would Harriet Tubman say to us now? Or I should call her by her African name, Araminta. Am I saying it right? Araminta, I'm saying that right, Keisha? Araminta? What would she say if she saw our behavior? If she saw what people are doing on a dance floor now? If she saw us out here selling death to each other and saw the stuff that we're doing, how would she look at it? I mean, sometimes we got to say that. See, we develop a sense of normality when we see abnormal behavior going on every day. You just say, well, that's just another day in the hood. Is it really? Is it really? So, if you see a hand-to-hand and people are selling drugs, as a matter of fact, now, and this has been something it's not only current, but it's been going on for years, people walk up to each other, boom, 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 but back, 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 and all that. You ever hear them say that? It's emulating semi-automatic weapons. They walking up to each other. Bap, 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 and all that. You know, I mean, didn't Biggie say, you know, bad boys travel in silence? Didn't he say that? Bad boys travel in silence. In silence. So, what are we doing broadcasting? Everybody want to be a terror. Everybody want to be a terror. I used to tell people around my way when I would see two people fighting, they'd always say, oh, here he come, he gonna break it up. I would break it up. Two people would be fighting, I'd break it up. And I would say to them, when they say, oh man, no, let them go, let them roll, let them roll, let them roll, let them do their thing. I say, I tell you what, why don't we all go to Avenue X and see who want to fight then? You know, I know what happened to a transit worker when he got caught out there. Let's go out there. Let's go to Bensonhurst. Let's go to Howard Beach. Ain't nobody want to go. I said, I'll drive. Let's go out there and rock and roll. No takers for that. Now because you mess around with white folks now. You ain't coming back. You mess around. So, we all want to fight within a certain context, even though I will admit we have a martial spirit. That's one thing that I love about our people, and I love it. You know, it's almost like young people come out of the womb ready to fight, and that's a good thing. That's why the seminal question is, who are we? Because if we know that we got a martial spirit, don't the white man know it? Come on now, do the white man know it?
Yep.
He knows what the Haitians were able to do. Whipping butt, beat the Spanish, beat the British, beat the French. He knows that spirit. He saw it. He saw it. Look, the slave master saw what happened when he went too far on Frederick Douglass. And Frederick Douglass beat the hell out of him, didn't he? And he knew that he could see it in a slave's eyes, in the enslaved person, in their eyes, that they're going to take for so much, and then it's going to come out. So I wouldn't do anything to discourage that martial spirit. I would just say use it properly. And if you carrying something illegal, be wise, be smart, and use it properly. If you're using it properly, we ain't got to worry about nothing. The black community is magically safe. If every weapon in Bed-Stuy was used in Bed-Stuy's interest, everything would be fine. You could leave your doors unlocked. If our minds were right, if our minds was right. Somebody said if it was a fifth, we'd all be drunk, right? So our minds ain't right. If our minds are right, this would be the safest place to be around black people, around your own. If our minds were right, if we only knew who we were. Now, Araminta, she said, this is not me talking. She said, I saved a lot of people. She said, but I could have freed more if they knew who they were. Now, can you imagine in 1850, 1855, 1860, and you don't know who you are? You ain't seen the lines are drawn. And ain't none of this stuff you can, now you could all act like you all confused. Not then. There were masters and there were slaves, and that was the relationship. There was no other relationship. None. You didn't have parental control over your children. You didn't have control of your husband or wife. It was all under the permission of the slave master or the slave owner, whatever term you're comfortable with. You didn't have any choices on anything. Tote that ball, lift that bell. Like the song Old Man River. Tote that ball, lift that bell. And that's what you did from sun up to sundown. And you lucky if you had one of them owners that gave you Sunday afternoon on. So you could entertain yourselves, with some slave religion and some good religion. They weren't always the same. So I don't want to say that it was a part of your slave system, because some used it right. Nat Turner used it right. Gabriel Prosser used it right. Araminta and others used it right. It was an organizing tool. And that's the way it's supposed to be now. You're not supposed to be in a pulpit now, playing around, acting like everything's fine and all you have to do is get your personal salvation in place. And I'm not against that. Not against personal salvation. I think that it's necessary. It's a good thing. However, it's bigger than that. That's why if there's a difference in anybody's faith, some people believe in a higher power and some people don't. Some people believe in the brotherhood of the ancestors, the sisters. Consequently, you have such a difference that Malcolm said, keep your religion in your back pocket. Take your religion and leave it at the door when you come together with other people. Leave all that stuff outside. so that we could unify as a people. Because you can't say that white people are teaching you about God, about this. They don't know who God is. It would literally almost be impossible to know God and believe in God and do what they did to us. All the rapes and brutality, and no, I don't look at them as true Christians. I don't look at them as whatever their religion might be, because I think their religion is the dollar and the gun, and that's what they are guided by, the gun and the dollar. But you know, we all have to work this out ourselves. Now, I'm going to use a little notes, but most of the stuff I'm going to read you, and then I might ask you a few questions. I hope people don't go into long-winded things. But after 500 years of oppression, why do we still believe in the white man? After 500 years of documented oppression. Now, I'm not talking about that this started in Africa 500 years ago, even though it did start in Africa 500 years ago, on the western part of Africa, because the other side, the Arabs was giving us hell, you know, and that's much longer. That goes back, more like 1400 years. But with the European, and that's what I'm focusing on this time, you know, because oftentimes when whites and Arabs get in those skirmishes, the best thing for you is to stand on the sideline, because they've both done dirt and some of the most heinous crimes one can imagine was done to us, either in the name of white folks' Christianity or the Arabs' Islam. Some of the worst. So after 500 years, how do we believe anything that he says? Why do we try to emulate them and try to do like them and still be around? You know, the question was raised, and I love the way Elijah Muhammad answered. The question was raised, why does the Negro love the white man so much? Does anybody know what his answer was? His
Because he
reply.
gives you nothing.
Because he gives you nothing. Now, had Dr. King been asked that, it would have been a totally different answer. It would have been a philosophical answer, because that's what Dr. King was. Even though, yes, he was a preacher. We all know that. I could understand that. But he was a philosopher. So he would philosophize and use 15-letter words and then speak to that. And of course, if it was Eric Michael Dyson, however you say his name, he would give you one of them long-winded answers too. That's not what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. He said, because the white man gives you nothing. So I asked Noel about that, Noel Leader from 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement, and he said it's the beaten white syndrome. He said basically you can equate that answer to the way a man can beat a woman and she comes back, or she stays there and takes the beating and say, he loves me. That's why he cares so much that he beats me. He cares so much that he'll put hands on me. Or she might get into a mindset where she feels she did something wrong, and that he's just correcting a bad situation. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, the devil gives you nothing. So you're going to always try to please him, to endear yourself to him, instead of seeking brotherhood amongst your own. I end community cop shows with accept your own and be yourself. Those are the words of Elijah Muhammad. Accept your own and be yourself. The reason why that's so germane today is because we have not accepted our own. We have not been ourselves. We wearing another face. The boys called it double consciousness. That's what the boys called it, double consciousness. You in one world, but at the same time you in another world. And it's that dichotomy where war's being waged inside of your brain. You know, you don't know which way you're going to go. And that's dangerous. When you don't know which way you're going to go because you don't know who you are. That's why you got to build a base. I think, there's so many names in my mind, but I think it was Fred Douglass that rationalized it's easier to train the youth and make them better and more complete than to try to deal with somebody who's psychologically wounded. If they're messed up, and some of us are messed up so bad, you would do better by just putting him on the side instead of wasting your time, him or her on the side, and to deal with you, who you can train the right way. As the scriptures say, train them while they're young, so when they're older, they won't depart from them. So that's the dynamic that we're dealing with. That's the, so now, if I say, why do we trust in this justice system? Why do we go to courtrooms and deal with the things that we do? I'm going to give you a few things that I want you to look at, and then we can better decide who are we, and are we who we think we are. If I said the name John Crawford, did anybody remember that situation? John Crawford. That was a black man, and by the way, he had a connection through friendship, not family, with Obama. But in any event, John Crawford was the man who got killed in Walmart. Y'all remember that now?
Yes.
The man who was killed in Walmart. Now, where he was at in Ohio is very different from the Walmarts you see here in New York. When you go out of state, them Walmarts sell guns.
Very much so.
So he was checking out some rifles. Picked up one of the rifles and he's doing such and such. A white woman sees him and calls the cops. Because he picked up a rifle. Well, the rifles are right there to be picked up. She calls the cops. The cops come in the Walmart store. As soon as they see him, they open up and kill him. Just like that. Not drop it. Not freeze. Not hold on. Nothing. No communication. Just wait. They run down to that aisle, turn, and fire. Right on John Crawford. They were not prosecuted for that action. But go on, we're gonna believe in it. We're gonna believe in this system. What about Rekia Boyd? Does anybody remember Rekia Boyd? That's Chicago. Anybody remember that one? Off-duty cop is driving through a park. I just want you to picture this. Use your imagination and picture 11, 12 o'clock at night. you driving through a park, and you know, it's, you know, let's make it sizable, you know, it's a nice sized park. You driving by and you hear people talking. And people talking, laughing, cutting it up. You know, how do you stop your car and tell them, keep it down? Y'all making too much noise. You in a park. What you supposed to do in a park? Be quiet? Not say nothing? You with your friends, you gonna talk. And you know, you might crack some jokes and laughing and all that stuff. Do you know what he did? He allegedly claims he was trying to shoot over their head to shake them up. Her brains was blown out. Shot her right in the head. Now I'm asking you again, why do we believe in the justice system here? Or to make it plain, why do we still believe in white folks? I mean, how can you get away with that? You're off duty. You're not even working. And I'm not, you know, suggesting anything because technically you're never off duty. Technically. But he was off duty. Now, how do you get away with something like that? I'm just asking you. You ain't got to answer it. I'm just asking you the question. I'm going to just throw a few more names at you and see if it strikes a responsive chord, because I want to know, why do we still believe in this white man and think there's some dignity and there's a redemptive quality in him? How about Corin Gaines? Anybody remember that? Mm-hmm. Corin Gaines? Some of you saw it. That should stay imprinted on your mind throughout perpetuity. Corin Gaines. It's one of the most savage things I've seen in my life. Corin Gaines. How old was she? About 22, 23?
In her 20s, yeah.
She was in her house with her 5-year-old and a toddler, like a 1-year-old. But let me backtrack a little bit. With her, Corin Gaines had an incident on a highway with a police officer. And y'all remember that? Mm-hmm. She quoted some maritime law. She listened to the philosophy of who? Anybody know? Say it again?
Noble Drew Ali.
Well, give the name.
Morse?
Yeah, that's the name. Say it again.
Morse.
She listened to the Moors. The Moors told her that a police officer does not have the right to stop you. The Moors told her that on the spot, you can claim your sovereignty. That you come from a sovereign government. Consequently, this police officer does not have jurisdiction over her. Now, that's not what the law says. If you do believe in law, that's not what the law says. But she's quoting something from the Moors. And she believed. Now, you know, you have a lot of people, you know, whether it's polite in them, a whole lot of people always sold people on this sovereign crap. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm saying that because I said that right in front of him. We was on 125th Street and we was running for city council and the mayor spot and these things, and we were up there right on 125th Street, and he spoke before me, and he was pushing all this stuff, and I couldn't be silent. So when I got up there, I had to respond to all that, and I told people, you live in America,
The state building.
I said, you're bound by law. There's no substance to anything he just said.
Who is he?
Oh, I'm sorry, Polite. I don't know what his name or title other than Polite.
Michael Noak.
Okay, Michael No, alias, also known as,
Brother polite.
oh, Brother Polite. Okay, Brother Polite. So, in any event, Corin Gaines, a beautiful sister, you know, believed that and told that police officer. So instead of getting maybe one violation or two, he gave her a host of violations. The message, he gave her the business. Okay, so she got a few tickets that day. Stopped her, gave her a few tickets, and she was ticked off about it, to say the least. Well, she went to the courtroom to try to get the court date to fight this. Now, in the courtroom, they wouldn't give her the date. She wanted to know, you know, you speak to what, like a clerk or somebody, they ask, look, the police officer didn't put down the date that I'm supposed to appear because I want to fight this. So they didn't give her the date because they wanted to give her the business. So what did they do? When she didn't appear in court, they converted her citations, the summons that she got, and converted that to a warrant. And they can do that in certain states. You have an outstanding whatever, you didn't appear in court. Consequently, they take it to another level. Now, why did SWAT come to her house? Now, on your worst day, and you kiss the ground white folks walk on, can you justify SWAT coming to somebody's house?
That happened here in New York?
No, it happened in Baltimore. SWAT, Baltimore SWAT, trained in military warfare,
To kill.
trained to kill, went to her house, barricaded the surroundings. Nobody can get into that compound. And actually demanded that she come out. She said she wasn't coming out. And on the video, she had like some kind of rifle. Was it a shotgun, Keisha, or just a rifle?
Rifle.
It was a rifle. She had a rifle. And her boyfriend went out there. Her boyfriend he went out. He took the toddler, which was his baby, you know, the 1-year-old. He took the baby and he went outside. Now, don't ask me why he left his lady in there, but he went outside. But that's what he did. You know, he went and left her in there. The 5-year-old boy refused to leave his mother. And, which is understandable, you know, because he's at an age now where he's like, you know, mommy, I'm going to protect you. You know, and so he's standing there with her. They got eyes on the place, so they could look right into her apartment. And they see her. They see what she set up. They see the rifle and all that. It was a turkey shoot. It was like practice. The ESU police officer was so well trained and he's relaxed. He shot the weapon and killed her. He shot her son and skinned him just to, you know, give him a little something. Shot him and just nicked him. That's how good he was.
5-year-old child.
Was that? Yeah, he shot him. He just nicked him. Just a wound.
That's a 5-year-old child.
Yes.
How can that be a battle? That's stupid, that's backward, that's cowardness.
It was cowardly. It was cowardly. Now everybody should have said that. I don't know why you don't even understand that, because that's a coward. He's a well-trained
And
coward.
a woman, and she's surrounded, why you give her a chance to walk out the house?
No, they told her initially because you have to understand. One of the worst things you can be is predictable. And they knew from her attitude, from her arguing when she first got the summons. And then they took into consideration she was popping off, they was popping off. And then when she went to the clerk's office to find out what her court date was, they wouldn't give it to her.
Well, they,
All intentional, because it was a buildup.
they,
So now,
it's a
when they converted that to a warrant, they had, they had, I was going to say ESU, they had Baltimore SWAT coming in. And Baltimore SWAT coming in, they didn't come into play. You know, you don't do all that training and tactics. You don't do all of that and then come in and want to talk. You tell them one time, come out with your hands up. And you saying it in such a way that you have no recourse but to come in on the spot or else. So it was predictable what was going to happen to her. So they outright killed her. And just so you know the name is Corinne Gaines. A young sister, at the time, maybe 23. Nice looking, beautiful. Got caught up in something. And not one peep from the Moors. Not one peep from the Moors, who told her she was sovereign. That the police had no authority over her. She don't know. She was quoting maritime law. And that's the law when you 3 miles out to sea, whatever amount of miles, I don't even want to say
For the
3.
fish.
It's laws that govern the water when you're way out there. Let's say international waters. But you borderline, there are laws that govern that. There are laws of what you can have on your boat. You know, these are laws, and they're maritime laws that's in effect. And she didn't know that
she was quoting a maritime law.
she was quoting a maritime law.
That was not applicable to her being on land.
Has nothing to do when she's on the highway and they pull you over. So, again, you didn't hear a peep from the Moors. Whatever Moors taught her that, or if they sold her the paperwork, because, Polite sells the paperwork. I don't know what the Moors in Baltimore was doing, but he used to sell $100, $200, $500 packages, all kind of crazy stuff.
Selling it now.
You know.
Did her family sue after she was murdered by?
Yes. A lawsuit was put in effect, and they had won initially, but then they struck it down, and I'm not sure what the status is now. But a young sister lost her life through the hands of a coward that was not charged. He should have been suspended right away, put up on criminal charges for killing Corinne Gaines.
And they should have given her a date. That was entrapment not to give her a date.
Yeah, it's true. She
They
tried.
should have given her a date.
Because
Of course they give you a date.
Because this was videotaped. Her asking for her court date. All of that. So that's to be considered. Charlene Lyles. Does anybody remember her? Charlene Lyles. This was Seattle. In that case, you had Charlene Lyles. She had an attempted break-in that night. This was on the midnight tour. So let's say 3, 4 in the morning, there was an attempted break-in to her house. And so she called the police, and the person who was trying to get in there left. So when they came and knocked on the door, as they said, she had a knife in her hand. This was because she was at that point shaking, very scared, and she had children, several children in the house. And so when they came in the door, they told her drop the knife. And she was still shaking over the fact that somebody tried to break into her house. So without warning, the police opened up on her and killed her outright. Now, if you watch the video, you could see the cops in the hallway squeezing off on her. Now, if you in a hallway, and let's say hypothetically, Charlene is 10, 15 feet away, is that a threat to you with a knife?
No.
Then what the hell are you shooting her for? If you told her drop the knife, and she doesn't drop it right away, you're still not justified in shooting her. She's not coming towards you. So, why do we still have confidence in the white man when they can do that? Now, I've laid out quite a few cases. I'm just going to do a few more because I want to let you see how these 500 years, these last 500 years, and we still got confidence and faith and want to endear ourselves to this man. Now this next one, this next one is something else. 3 young sisters, 15 and 16 and 16. 115, 216. They were driving to St. Petersburg, Florida. The cops began, 3 deputy sheriffs were chasing them. Now, here, when the police are chasing you here, if you don't stop the car right away, there has to be an assessment as to, are you a danger now to yourself and others, even though units are in hot pursuit? Oftentimes they'll call it off because they got the license plate. They're going to get you another day. They'll get you later, but in terms of chasing these individuals at that time. Now, they weren't in a stolen car. They were in a friend's car. They were driving. Do you know that deputy sheriff stayed on their tail and drove them into a pond where the water was deep? Those 3 sisters died. They drowned. Ran right into a pond, and while they went, when the car went full into the pond, a very deep, like lake, do you know the 3 deputy sheriffs that stood there and watched it? They did not even attempt to open up their car door. Just watched it. And they mocked her, saying, okay, I guess they dead now. I don't hear no noise, because they initially heard screaming in the car. St. Petersburg, Florida, deputy sheriff's office. Was there a leadership all over America calling for those 3 deputy sheriffs to be terminated and criminally charged? Didn't happen. I'm just going to do a few more because, Freddie Gray, I don't even have to talk about Freddie Gray because we all familiar with that, right? That's the brother that was shot, 16 times or more? And the cops claim he came at them with a knife. He was walking the opposite way away from the cops. But I think most of us know that, so I'll go on to
That's
another.
not Freddie Gray.
Yeah, Freddie
No,
Gray was.
that's-
Oh, wait.
It was in the back of the truck.
I mean,
Laquan McDonald.
Laquan McDonald, pardon me. Laquan McDonald was walking away from the police officer. Freddie Gray was the one where actually he was just observing police officers. He just was looking at them, they were looking at him, and then he just jetted. And they went after him. They chased him into, I guess the best way to describe it is an alley. Now he was able to run into that alley. They ran into the alley after. When he came out, they were dragging him. Now, we don't know, there's no video footage of what happened in that alley. But the video footage shows them dragging him when he couldn't walk, when he came out of the alley. Consequently, then they gave him what's called a rough ride, where they cuff him behind his back, shackle him, and then you driving the car fast and you stop it. So he's gonna slide from this end of the car in the back, you know, it's a long wagon, and you're gonna go face first into a metal divider. So he was messed up already. They took what would be called a circuitous route. So they didn't take him straight to the holding detention place. They didn't take him there. They didn't take him to the hospital. But as soon as they got him to that detention area where people are arrested at, the people there said, no, we're not taking him. Take him to the hospital. He was bleeding so bad and in such bad shape. Those officers looked at them and said, no. We're not taking him. You better take him to the hospital. And they took him to the hospital. And of course, he received medical attention once they got him there. They took the long way to get him to the hospital. But, you know, as we all know, he didn't make it. You know,
That's for him observing something the cops were doing, just looking.
well, it's not just looking, it's what soldiers used to call in the army eyeball. You know, when that white superior officer would say to you as a private, you eyeballing me, boy? Your head got automatically go down. Down south, grown men used to walk around with their head down because you were doing what's called eyeball.
On the sidewalk, get out, white folks.
You got to move off the sidewalk, and you can't look.
Eye to eye.
You can't look at them eye to eye because you're placing yourself on their level, and that was unacceptable. So,
Racism.
what about Detective Suter, Sean Suter, Baltimore Police Department? Does anybody remember that one? Familiar with it at all? This one, Detective Suter, 18-year vet. 18-year vet. He's getting ready the next day. He was to appear in federal court and testify against a slew of dirty cops in Baltimore. This was not a secret. It was well known that the next day he was to testify against a unit called the Gun Trace Unit. That's an elite unit within the Baltimore Police Department. Well, he didn't make it. On that day before, his state department was rerouted and transferred someplace else. and he had a white partner that day. So what happened? They had a call on a triple homicide. So what did he do? He went with the other guy, who wasn't his steady partner, the white guy, and what they did was they went to an alley, an area where an alley was, because earlier that day he had went and they called him back. It wasn't set up thoroughly yet, so they had to set it up right, and they didn't want any mistakes made. So what they did was had him come back to that area. He walks to the alley. The white guy who was his partner for that day slips back. And when he slips back, a fight ensues. But the partner, who's supposed to see the fight, says he's hiding behind a car while Detective Suter is fighting somebody. And he said the person had on a white and black jacket. Now suddenly you hear gunshots. And now Detective Suter is dead. And the partner is not even on the radio calling for backup and help. He's on his cell phone. The police commissioner said it was proper tactics, justified his tactics, that the partner used. So he couldn't identify the person. He claimed they had a white and black jacket on. And coincidentally, that next day, he was supposed to testify on the gun trace unit, which is an elite unit within Baltimore Police Department. Now, I guess that's a coincidence, right? That the day before he's supposed to testify, he ends up dead. On the job, not at home, not shot on the way home, shot there at work, 18 years back. They covered it up. And then they turned around and said later that he wasn't in a fight. They changed the story. See, because they always feel that black folks, if you let the anger die down, it's going to all go away. So they changed the story later. Why am I saying this? I'm just saying they will lie on top of another lie and then cover each other. He was the partner, the white guy. There was no explanation why he changed partners that day. And then because the other partner was somewhere else working. And then why did the white guy who he was with, who claimed he saw him in a fight, why wasn't he immediately on the air calling for backup?
Why did he go there?
Why didn't he go to help him? That's a good question too.
If he was a partner.
Yeah, well, so much for partners, right? In that situation, especially when you're going to testify the next day. So he got killed. They covered the whole thing up, paid off his wife. Sounds like what they did with Omar Edwards here in New York. Same thing. You got to be silent, and you can get that pension. So consider that, and I'll just do a couple more. Then I got to get to some more pertinent things. I'm just saying that I want to, you know what? I'm going to leave a lot of this stuff because you probably know about Sandra Bland. What about Janiyah, Sister Janiyah McMillan? That one I'll mention only because she's 16 years old. She's at a, what do you call those, Sweet 16? She's at a Sweet 16. You know how sometimes people will rent a room in a hotel to have a party, a Sweet 16 party? Well, they did that, and management called the police saying that they were too loud. I mean, what do you expect when you have a bunch of 16-year-olds? So they were loud, so when the police came and was probably talking a little smack to them, she said something back. And one thing led to another, and they arrested her. They cuffed her, took her out, took her to a detention center in Kentucky, and charged her with, X, Y, and Z, just to run her through the system. And so, one of the officers there asked her to remove her sweatshirt, and she refused. Now I need some Sherlock Holmes in the room to figure this one out. She's asked to remove her outer garment. She refuses. What action are you supposed to take?
None.
None. That's a good answer. None.
If you're gonna do anything, you'll get a female officer to deal with it.
That's the correct answer. Get a female. What the hell are you, a grown man? What are you doing asking her to remove her outer garment? And knowing that the only other thing she got on is a bra.
If you get that on.
If that. So in any event,
Does he have a backup question? Because after she removes her garment, what's his intention?
well, I mean, that's a whole nother ball game, but the fact that she refused to take off that outer garment, he put her in a keto hold, a compliance technique that is painful. It's painful. And he ended up killing her. Put her back in a cell and just act like nothing happened.
After killing.
Yeah, he killed her. He killed her. A 16-year-old girl, and he's got to use a keto on her because he's the man that she pull up her sweatshirt and she refused to. But I'm not going to go through many more because,
Did her family sue?
yeah.
Did
Yeah.
it win?
Yeah, they won, but I'm trying to remember the settlement, and I don't think it was that big.
And this is what she got for turning Sweet 16.
Yep.
All because the hotel people did not go down there and ask them to be quiet.
No, they called the police.
They could have asked them to be quiet.
That's
or
what they should have done.
asked them, if you can't be quiet, then you need to end this because it's
Yeah,
disturbing the peace.
that's all. You make it that simple. You tell them that they're too loud. They say, we're not that loud.
And you say,
Then you say, okay, fine.
Then
You
go
don't
on.
think you're loud, but we think you're loud. So now it's over. You have to
Exactly.
leave. It's that simple. But no, they call the police department. So, I won't even go, I'll just say Camila Brock. Anybody familiar with that one? Okay, Camila Brock was a young sister. Let's say she's about, at the time, 27, 28. She's a manager in a bank. She's driving a late model BMW. And she,
cops in the middle of her car.
at a red light, she's dancing. Any of y'all ever dance in the car? Shaking your head, rocking. She's doing that. And the police look in her car, see her doing that.
And they jealous.
And now, they pull her over and say to her, yo, whose car is this? And she said, it's mine. They question whether she can afford that late model BMW. She told them she's a manager in a bank, and they laughed. They're like, you, a manager in a bank? And then she told them that not only is she one of the young people that's like a who's who, so to speak, that Obama follows her and on her social media.
That's when they really laugh.
And so they really started laughing then and said, This N-word is saying that President Obama follows her. So they said, you know what? Get out the car. And they locked her up. So they find out that that's her car. So now, what do? They said, we gotta do something. You know what they do? They said, you know, we don't like her attitude. We can't send her home. We taking her to the hospital. Now, what you don't know is that the police department has a relationship with psych wards at various hospitals. I'm not saying every hospital. They have a relationship at some hospitals that will work with police officers. If they say this person's acting up, hold them. They can hold you for a minimum of 72 hours.
Long time.
3 days.
Now, they held her for 8 days. And oh yes, they drugged her up. She was on psychotropic medication over those 8 days until her people got her out. And so, why am I saying that? I'm saying that because some of y'all still believe in this white man and believe that somehow, if you're right, if you're upright in whatever you're doing, you're going to receive justice because you didn't do anything wrong. Now, you can believe and be as self-righteous as you want to be. Don't go in the courtroom without a lawyer. And then you better make sure that that lawyer is fighting for you. You better make sure of that. Because just because you did everything right, don't mean you're going to get treated right in that courtroom. So now, Alton Maddox always said that there's one case that he always looked to with any case he's dealing with. And that is, what case?
What?
What?
Garlic?
No. No. The one case that he always looks to is Dred Scott.
Okay.
Because Dred Scott explains no matter what you're being charged with, it basically shows you. And this is why he applied military tactics and had a whole strategic approach to how he was going to fight because he understood Dred Scott. And the basis of Dred Scott is telling you not only do you have no rights that a white person is bound to respect, but also that you're not a citizen. Therefore, don't think that you have constitutional rights. You're not a citizen. So, which is the important thing that you got to remember about the law. You have to remember that anything that's on the books can be removed. You saw 10 years ago exactly Alabama versus Holden, where diminution of your civil rights was in effect. They started just hijacking it and made it toothless. Well, they did the same thing in 1875. We got the Accommodations Act in 1875, which meant by then the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment was already in effect. 65, 68, and 70. That was already in effect. So when 75 came around and we got the right to sit down and dine around white people, why was that taken away in 1883? The Supreme Court said, not only will we be selected with respect to who votes, but you no longer have that right. It got shot down in 8 years. It got shot down. So I'm not surprised about what happened 10 years ago with Holden, because I've seen it before in our history. So we got to be mindful of that. Some Negroes walk around thinking we got constitutional rights. I have the right to this, I have the right to that. Therefore, I want your badge number. I'm going to take your job. I mean, some people, I want your badge number. Really? I'm going to give you my badge number after you said it. You're going to give my badge number is something else.
Beat you so bad you won't remember.
You know, so you know, when you wake up, 36 hours later, let's see if you remember that badge number.
Can't see, can't talk, can't do.
So, and I have a few things, but I'm not going to go into that. Michael Holdsclaw, you remember that? Oklahoma?
The rapist.
Michael Holdsclaw.
Chinese rapists, or Japanese rapists.
Well, he was white, but he had some Asian in him. But he felt, as far as he was concerned, he had white skin privilege. He raped 13 black women. Now, that doesn't mean that he did it 13 times. He did several of them several times. There's one young lady who was, she was about 16 at the time. He raped her like 2 or 3 times. Matter of fact, once he went to her house, called out on a porch, and told her to take care of him, which he did, performed fellatio on him. He did her a few times and told her that if you tell her, I'm going to blow your brains out.
How was he caught?
That's a good question. Okay, good. That's a real good question. I like that. How was he caught? Because obviously with that authority,
He's so cocky.
you gotta wonder, how was he caught?
But did somebody kill him?
One sister that he raped, and this sister was like 50, 52 years old.
Middle age.
Yeah, when he raped her, he forced her to go down on him. I guess he didn't want to penetrate. His thing was, come on, go down on me. And so she was scared to death. He had his gun out. She went down on him. And then he did it in the police car. And then
He was a cop.
he was a cop.
Yeah, praise God.
Oh, I didn't say that whole school. I didn't say he was a cop. Oh, right, because when some of them said they remember the case, I didn't mention that he was a police officer. He was a big guy. He was, as a matter of fact, he got cut. He was in the NFL, a football player, and he's one of the last cuts. He's a real big guy. So when he raped her, her DNA was all over his pants, as well as his sperm and everything. Some of it got on his pants. And he didn't change his pants. So when she walked back to her car, she was scared to death because the whole time she thought he was going to shoot her when she walked back to her car. As soon as she got in her car and drove off, she called her brother. Her brother was a police officer in the next town. So when she called him, he told her what to do. Go to IAB right away. Now, if it was some of us, we would handle that differently. Then when you call an IAB, I'm going to see him.
What's IAB?
Internal Affairs.
Internal Affairs Bureau.
Thank you.
So, I'm sorry I said IAB, yeah. So in any event, she made the call, and they had said that there was a couple other people who had similar complaints. So you know what they did? They used the GPS in his car and saw that he made stops. While he was at work, he stopped at the little girl's house that was 16 years old, and they just traced them all. They took his pants out of his locker.
You got it in there.
They got his pants out of his locker, got him dead to rights. And so that's how he was caught, to answer your question.
You know what he said to the jury when they convicted him?
What he said?
How could you do this?
Right. He cried like a baby. Said, I can't believe this. How could this happen to me? I can't believe this. Because no cop in that town was ever arrested on anything and on allegations. But the evidence was overwhelming. And they got so many complaints. And, truth be told, he wasn't 100% white.
And that's why he got caught.
You know, that's what it was, Dr. Lewis. Had he been white, they could have covered up for him. They didn't have to do the GPS check. They didn't have to do the DNA check. They didn't have to listen to any of those women. The 13 women, they were all black. He only raped, by the way, in case I didn't mention it, he only raped black women.
Period.
He ain't raped white women. He rapes black women. Exclusively.
Where was this at, please?
Oklahoma.
Tulsa. He should have ran
The
a fast.
famous Tulsa, where Black Wall
Yes,
Street was?
yes. Yes and yes.
That wasn't on the north side, was it?
What?
It wasn't in northern Oklahoma.
Oh, I don't know. I'm
That's
not.
where Black Wall Street was.
That was the Black Wall Street, it was not Tulsa.
But it was Tulsa.
It's northern Tulsa.
Oh, I
It's
don't know.
Tulsa.
Could be.
North,
Tulsa
south,
County.
east, west, it's Tulsa.
The penalty.
It's ironic you do that in Tulsa.
Oh, he got
Tulsa's white.
at least 30-something years.
Tulsa was the Black Wall Street.
Yeah. He got 30-something years. I don't know the exact number, but I'd say it's in the 30s. And he cried like a baby. It could be more than that, but I'm going to say 30-something. And he cried like a baby in the courtroom.
'Cause he didn't-
Now, his father's a judge, but his father's not in Oklahoma. His father's a judge somewhere on the East Coast, like Virginia somewhere. So he just couldn't believe that it would happen to him because nobody else was convicted that way. So in any event, the thing was, who am I? Who are we? Who are we? If I mention to you, what does the world think of the Vietnamese? Let me ask you that.
The world or America?
The world. Just say world, or if somebody say Vietnam, what comes to mind when you think of Vietnam?
Less than.
Less than anything else comes to mind when you think of Vietnam?
Was it the Vietnamese?
What's that?
Was it the Vietnamese that went after the white boys in the military when they were fighting America because they realized that white men were much more racist than black men during the war? Was it the Vietnamese?
That happened a few times, several times.
But it was the Vietnamese men that went after those white boys and they left the black men alone.
Well, that was the war, you know. But I'm going to come back to it. Anybody else? Anything when you think of Vietnam? You think of fierce fighters.
That's what.
The
The world
Yeah.
respects
The black man.
Vietnam because
They
they resisted and they beat the hell out of the French. It took decades, and the French gave up and passed the ball to America. And said maybe you could do something with it. Because we done bombed them, we done did everything, we tried to stop them.
We can't stop.
But they wasn't familiar with these guerrilla tactics that the Vietnamese was using. Now you have to remember that a man with a knife, like Malcolm would say, you know, a man with a blade late at night under the cover of darkness. You got your high-powered, fully automatic machine gun, and he got his knife. He said when it get dark, it's even Steve.
Easily.
So, Malcolm described it that way. Here's what. That little bowl of rice that he's carrying inside his shirt, that little bowl of rice, while you eat your nice highfalutin meal or whatever that might be, he's got that little bowl of rice and he's just sitting there patiently, waiting for a time. Well, as fate would have it, that time came. And they were known as fierce fighters, and they was able to, you know, fight with old arms. The Tet Offensive, they were a little more mechanized by then. But in any event, the world has to respect their will to fight because they beat two highly industrial countries, the French, and then they were able to kick butt against American forces. Now, I asked you about the Vietnamese. What about the Cubans? What does the world think of Cuba? Very much different than what?
He's strong.
Yeah. Anybody else? What does America think of the Cubans? Or anybody else, specifically America? What does America think of Cubans?
America respect Cuba, because Cuba has fought them and not backed down. And
They are respected because
because they will fight, they have fought them. One, I believe.
The Vietnamese were confined to their country.
yes.
The Cubans exported support for different settings.
So
Different
what does
people.
America think of it?
That's bad. That was very bad because they were in Africa. They were in.
You saying that's bad that they were in Africa?
Americans view them as a bad influence.
Okay.
If there was
All right.
there was an earthquake or a disaster, they would send their doctors. They were in Angola. There was a big thing when Fidel sent that contingent down here.
Man, did he? Well, look. So it's safe to say. Okay, it's safe to say that America, at least in so many different places in the world, respects Cubans because they're gonna fight.
And that
You know, and the Cuban women are not the whores of America anymore. So you have to, I'm gonna do Q&A in 5 minutes. So so you gotta respect them. So we honor the Cubans because of what they did in Grenada, Angola, in so many places, that spirit. Now I'm wondering if we have that spirit. And if not, why not? Why we don't have that? We're born with it. It's been taken from us with science. A lot of science will involve psychological warfare. Matter of fact, if you look at the examples, how did black men just start walking down the street switching, holding hands with another man? Where did that come from? And I'm just going to move fast because I want to start the Q&A. How did we become so effeminized? How did that happen?
That LTQBG, whatever it is.
No, don't worry about it. You ain't got to get it right in front of me, because I just say the gay community. I ain't going
When
through
that
all
showed
that.
up, it was all right for everybody, almost shit in their pants.
Now, just very quickly, the Harlem Renaissance. As much as we respect the art, the music, the writing, in retrospect, how many of them were gay?
Lots.
Most of them.
Most of them
Ball
were gay.
you know.
And we are trained,
All this,
we are trained to look at them. Well, Baldwin came later, but Baldwin is an example that I would tell anybody that would listen that Baldwin was not a leader. He wasn't a leader of men. He was a writer.
All right, yeah.
There's a difference. We attach leadership to anybody we see on TV. Well, white folks put them on TV. It's a reason behind it.
Because they were selected.
So Baldwin can't lead men. He was a writer. Might have been a brilliant writer, but he wasn't a leader of men. How you gonna lead black men and every night you're in a different white man's bed? Running all over the place. In France, every white man could say, I had him before. Head downtown, Harold used to tell me about all of his boyfriends.
Zesty.
And Harold could rattle them names off. Man. So where are we? What happened to us? You told me that Cubans ain't taking no shorts. Said the Vietnamese ain't taking no shorts. Who's the most brutal group, ethnic group we've had to face here in America?
KKK.
Have you ever defined it? You're saying the KKK.
Not even close.
Anybody else?
Bolsheviks.
White Committee,
Bolsheviks, KKK, anything else?
White Committee, Citizen Council.
The White Citizens Council. Okay, you're naming a lot of terrorist organizations. Now, who's been more brutal to us than the Irish?
Nobody.
Nobody. Irish. It's not an accident that they are basically in every major city, they're the police force. It's not an accident. It's not an accident that in 1863, the draft riots, they were all targeting us. Do you know what our numbers in New York was in 1863 before the draft riots? We were 25% of the city in 1863. Do you know where we were after the draft riots? 2%. Well, what happened to all them black folks? They were killed or they were scattered out. And last thing, I'm gonna go with one last thing and then we're gonna open up the Q&A. Do you remember when, and there's one person here that should remember this. Do you remember when Al Van and who was it? Who was the city council people? The best I remember would be, it was Charles and Al Van that wanted to Charles Barron that wanted to change Gates Avenue
Yes.
to
Sonny.
Sonny Carson.
Carson. It was Jefferson Avenue.
No. Gates.
It was Gates.
Right here.
It was Gates. It was Gates Avenue. Now, if you did your homework because you got the book, why did Christine Quinn step in and said, hell no? Gates Avenue will stay Gates Avenue. Did you do the research on that?
I was there. I have.
Okay, I was there too.
I have all the names in this book.
I was there too. Why did Christine Quinn not name it Sonny Carson? I mean, she didn't even know Sonny. So,
The powers that be told her not to. Ward 3 approved of the name.
all right, that's a good guess. That's a good guess. The fact of the matter is, Gates Avenue was Irish back in the day. And they had a Gates Avenue Protective Society to keep blacks out of Brooklyn. Because when they ran them out, they wanted to keep them out. And we had already developed, what's that part of Bed-Stuy? What is it called? That early part that we had?
Weeksville.
Weeksville. So they were trying to keep blacks out. And so it was the Gates Avenue Protective Association. So Christine Quinn, her relatives and family knows that and told her to protect Gates Avenue. So most people don't know that.
I did.
Yeah, well that's why Christine Quinn did it. Because she's Irish and she's protecting Irish history. So lastly, I'm just saying, who are we? Are we the sons and daughters of Nat Turner, Gabriel Prosser, Henry Highland Garnett? Are we their sons and daughters? Are we acting the way we're supposed to act?
No, sir. No, sir.
They know just how to control us. So, I won't even go into all this stuff because it's too much. But I'll just say, if we are the sons and daughters of these great warriors, Tutmosis III, Nat Turner, Hannibal, what are we doing bleaching?
Come on.
All through Africa, all through the Caribbean, bleaching is going on at a high rate. Why? If being dark is so bad, my question is why? If
Lack of knowledge.
if Dr. Collins is controversial or was controversial, why? Why was he considered controversial? Why was Malcolm considered controversial? Why was Elijah Muhammad considered controversial? And some of that is coming from us. How did we consider that? How did we just start calling light-skinned women cute? And with black women saying, oh, she got a nice body, but, you know, she ain't cute.
The color thing.
So, when I say who are we,
Willie Lynch, that's the police, part of that.
you know, I'm just asking that question. So, I'm going to open it up and we get a few questions in because it's almost 10 o'clock. I didn't know I went that long, but I just got so much stuff here just to raise questions about it. So when I say who are we, and who are we who we think we are, and are we always supposed to be, that's very important. So we can have a few
Anybody got questions from the floor? Questions? Go ahead,
Yes, sir.
question.
What do we do in terms of finding justice from the police departments anytime there are problems? I tend not to go to police. I mean, if I need something, police are the last people on my list to talk to, because a lot of times if you talk to them, somebody ends up dead and somebody else ends up paying a lawyer. So what do we do? I mean, do we resolve our own problems because we are adults? We have brains that work just like the white judge and the white lawyer, and save our money and save people
That's a
from
good
going to
question.
jail? Or what do we do because
I would,
justice is a joke in America?
okay.
It's the
No, you're
hypocrisy
right.
of-
But I would say that if we are properly organized and we being properly fed in our churches, our mosques, our social settings and organizations, if we were properly fed, most of the problems can be resolved right there on your block. You should have
Mobilization.
either spiritual leader, you should have cultural leaders, you should have resources that you could always reach out. And that's even if you're having an internal problem in your family. You don't want to call
And what?
the police department.
Because they quit.
Because if you have a problem, let's say you have a problem with your daughter, your son, your nephew, your niece. If you have a problem, do you know who's in charge once you open your door?
Police.
The police. your authority is gone.
And you give it up.
Once you open that door and let them in, and they tell you to shut up, now you know the tables have turned. So I'm just saying, have these kind of relationships where most of your things can be resolved without calling
Them.
the police department. And I'm not telling you not to, because obviously there might be a situation where you have to. I'm just saying if you don't have to, don't do it. Because it's too many horror stories.
Any other questions? Any other questions?
So let me just end by saying our people paid a price, a big price for us to be where we are. Now we get on planes, trains, we pull out our plastic, we can go all over, and we don't realize somebody paid the price for that. We can go to hotels, you can't tell us we ain't command, because we can travel, we can get around and kick your feet up on the table, relax, go on vacation. You can't tell us we ain't a part of this. But every so often you're going to get that reminder that you're not going to get justice. So I just say, with that, you know, we got to dare to struggle. You got to struggle. Because if you don't struggle, you're going to find all these rights that you thought you had. They will surely dissipate right there in front of you, in plain sight. And it's happened before, and it will happen again. So we have to organize in such a way, and in such a way that if you are under an organization, if you are under somebody that's providing proper leadership, then that's fine. But if not, start your own group. I mean, there's only one national leader that told everybody not to take the snake bite. And that's Minister Louis Farrakhan. There was no other major leader anywhere to be found that would tell you not to take it. Only one in America. Everybody else said take the snake bite. So all those PSA commercials people did, look at all the people that's died as a result of it. So I'll just say, you know, choose wisely and find a way to make a friend, build an organization. If you don't see the one you like, build one yourself. Get it started. All it takes is one person with the right mind, and others will follow at some point. And with that, I'll stop.